So the objective is to analyze recent US economic situation using key economic theories. And the key economic theories are Phillips curve, Hawkins law, quantitative theory of money, Lucas critique, and political business cycle. The goals are to understand factors contributing to economic slowdown, examine persistent inflation, and explore broader implications for economic policy and political dynamics.
First main point of the summary is the US economy experienced a significant slowdown in the first quarter of 2024 with an annual growth rate of 1.6%, a sharp decline from the 3.4% growth in the last quarter of 2023. Despite this, consumer spending, which drives the economic growth, remained increasing, growing at 2.5% annual rate from January through March, although this was down from over 3% in the previous two quarters. Secondly, inflation accelerated to a 3.4% annual rate in the first quarter, up from 1.8% in the previous quarter, with core inflation excluding food and energy prices rising to 3.6% from 2%. Spending on services such as entertainment and travel increased by 4%, the highest rate since mid-2021, while spending on goods like appliances and furniture fell by 0.1%. Third of all, surge in imports. It also reduced first quarter growth by nearly 1 percentage point, and business reductions in inventories also negatively impacted growth. However, the core components of the economy, such as consumer and business investment, remain strong. So, the last crucial part is election season. The state of the economy is a significant concern as the election season heats up, with inflation, though reduced from its 9.1% peak in 2022, still high compared to pre-pandemic levels. Republican critics are using the economic situation to challenge Joe Biden's re-election campaign. Despite the slowdown, the US economy is expected to grow 2.7% in 2024, outpacing other advanced economies. In conclusion, although the US economy is slowing, it shows underlying strength in consumer spending and business investment. Inflation remains a critical issue, influencing both monetary policy and political dynamics, but the economic landscape will continue to evolve.
So here we have the theory of Phillips curve. So the Phillips curve traditionally depicts a negative correlation between inflation and unemployment, which means that when inflation goes up, unemployment goes down, and when inflation goes down, unemployment goes up. Okay, so let's go through them one by one. Okay, so we have the short-run Phillips curve. So low unemployment and rising inflation. The current US scenario reflects increasing inflation alongside low unemployment. Labor market tightness. As unemployment decreases, the labor market tightens, creating upward pressure on wages. Increased production costs. Higher wages lead to increased production costs for businesses. Passing costs to consumers. Businesses pass these higher costs to consumers through increased prices, driving inflation. And then we also have inflation expectations. So, adaptive expectations. Workers and firms anticipating higher future inflation adjust wages and prices accordingly. Cycle of rising inflation. This adjustment can perpetuate rising inflation, shifting the short-run Phillips curve upwards. Okay? Current trends. The rise in core inflation indicates that inflation expectations may be increasing. Behavioral adjustments. Businesses and consumers are adapting to the higher price environment. Finally, we have the long-run Phillips curve. So the natural rate of unemployment, the Phillips curve is vertical, showing no long-term trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Equilibrium, the economy moves towards the natural rate of unemployment, where inflation remains stable. Fed's policy actions. The Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes aim to reduce inflation by cooling economic activity. Stabilizing inflation. While these actions may temporarily increase unemployment, the goal is to stabilize inflation in the long run. We have two examples of the Phillips curve. So on the left side here, we have the short-run Phillips curve, which is, as you can see, on the y-axis is the inflation rate, and on the x-axis is the unemployment rate. And you can see the Phillips curve itself. And on the top arrow shows that it is a point where the inflation is high and where the unemployment is low. And as you can see on the bottom arrow, there is a point where inflation is low and unemployment is high. Okay, so this proves that the Phillips curve depicts an inverse relationship between inflation rate and unemployment rate. On the right side here, we have the short run and long run Phillips curve. So as you can see, the axes are the same. So on the y-axis is inflation rate, and on the x-axis is unemployment rate. And then we have the short run Phillips curve 1, which is indicated by SRPC1 over there. So as you can see, when inflation rate increases from P1 to P2, which is from 2% to 6%, the short run Phillips curve actually shifts to the right, which is indicated by SRPC2, short run Phillips curve 2. And you can see on the point on P1 on 2%, the equilibrium level is on B, and on 6%, the equilibrium level is on point D. And for the long run Phillips curve, in the long run, a vertical line on the curve is assumed at the natural unemployment rate. So it is natural unemployment rate, which is 8%, which is indicated by NRU. And efforts to reduce or increase unemployment only makes inflation move up and down the vertical line. So the long run Phillips curve is indicated by one vertical line. So as you can see, it moves from point A to point C.
Theory of Okunlo. Okunlo theoretically observes negative relationship between unemployment and economic growth. Okay, let us look into current economy situation. First, US facing GDP slowdown in last quarter. Secondly, the unemployment rate for GDP remain below 4% for 26 straight months and this suggesting a strong labor market. Lastly, the consumer spending rose at 2.5% annual rate. Okay, from those statistics, we can notice that they look like have deviation from Okunlo, which means that there are not significant relationship between unemployment and economic growth. Below are a few possible reasons. First, strong labor market support the growth of consumer spending, and the subsequent spending come back to help keep unemployment low. Okay, other than that, the strong consumer spending will increase the import, and as article mentioned, the increasing import is main reason that why US GDP slow down. Okay, apart from that, government incentive. US government encourage firms increase their investment in shift and green technology. This, of course, this will create more opportunity of job. Lastly, that effect of high interest rate on unemployment rate may not have fully materialized. Quantity theory of money. This theory depicts the amount of money in an economy directly determine its overall price level. This formula MV equal to PY. Situation analysis. The inflation rate of US equal to 3.4% for quarter 1 and up from 1.8% Q to Q, and its core inflation rose to 3.6%. FED raised the interest rate for 11 times. Thirdly, the consumer spending and firm investment still remains strong. Justification. The rise of interest aimed to reduce the money supply and control inflation, but as we see, the US inflation is increasing, so this may show that the velocity of money is too high. Secondly, decrease of money supply will damage the economy output. This is proved by the decline of US GDP, so this is consistent with our quantity theory of money. Okay, last but not least, the persistence of core inflation at 3.6% despite high interest rate indicate that the price level affected by other factors such as supply chain restriction, Red Sea crisis, geopolitical event, and government fiscal policy. Like US government encourage investment.
The current economic landscape of the United States, GDP growth moderated to 1.6% in Q1 2024 from 3.4% in Q4 2023, driven by factors such as elevated interest rate, reduced businesses' inventories, and heightened imports. Inflation has currently edged up to 3.4%, with core inflation slightly higher at 3.6%. Consumer spending exhibits resilience in service but shows a marginal decline in goods. To combat inflationary pressures, the Federal Reserve executes 11 interest rate hikes from March 2020 to July 2023, prompted by peak inflations hitting 9.1% in May 2020. These measures aim to stir consumers and business behavior, potentially reshaping expenditure patterns and delaying investment decisions in the economic landscape. Current economic conditions in the US have significantly influenced businesses and consumer behavior, complicating the evaluations of economics policy. Despite initiative to expand factories and warehouses, higher borrowing costs from increased interest rates have deterred business investments in equipment. Consumers anticipating future rate hikes have shifted their spending patterns, with a slight decrease in spending on goods and increases in spending on services. This behavioral shift underscores the economic's resilience and the unexpected strength of the job market, deviating the traditional economic models. Policymakers must increasingly anticipate and integrate these behavioral changes into their frameworks to ensure that strategies are responsive to dynamic economic realities. Central banks like the US Federal Reserve use monetary policy to steer the economy. For example, from March 2022 to July 2023, the Fed raised interest rates to combat inflation and address the economic impacts of events like the Russia-Ukraine war. By adjusting rates, the Fed aims to manage inflation, stimulate growth, and improve metrics such as GDP growth, unemployment, and consumer confidence. This proactive approach highlights the central bank's role in maintaining economic stability amid global and domestic challenges. The Federal Reserve adopts a cautious approach to avoid the perceptions of politically motivated economic manipulation while striving to balance inflation control with maintaining economic stability. This contrasts with politicians who often implement short-term economic boosts to gain voter favor, creating a dynamic where economic conditions are closely scrutinized by both voters and policymakers. This interplay between economics policy and political strategy underscore the challenge of maintaining long-term economics, while navigating the short-term pressure of public opinion and electoral cycles.